Social Services Minister Anne Ruston is calling on states to stick to their end of the bargain and use lockdowns as a last resort. This comes after National Cabinet agreed to slash international arrivals by half. Let's go live to political reporter Andrea Crothers in Canberra this afternoon. Hello to you, Andrea. All this as another state reopens.
Good afternoon, Julie. Well, Brisbane, Moreton Bay, they're the latest areas to retaste that freedom. And the federal government today really again making the case that they want it to stay that way. So we saw National Cabinet on Friday agree to have lockdowns be used as a last resort as part of this four-phase pathway out of the pandemic. That, of course, coming with the trade-off for international arrivals, slashing that by half. We had Social Services Minister Anne Ruston today really making the case that, well, she hopes the states stick by that end of the bargain.
It's the people of that particular state and territory that become the victims of the lockdowns. The pathway that was charted on Friday, I think, is a really important and positive move, and it can give Australians confidence that there is an outcome. We'll be working towards that outcome, and hopefully the territory and state premiers and chief ministers will abide by that and play by the rules of the plan that they agreed to on Friday.
Now, under the next phase of the roadmap, vaccinated Australians, well, they'd be exempt from border controls as well as any future lockdowns. But the one clear thing missing here is the magic number, just how many Australians would need to be vaccinated for us to move to that next phase. So the modelling is still being done. The federal government is under pressure to release this as quickly as possible. The New South Wales Premier did say that in terms of those figures, well, should be happy with an 80% of the population vaccinated.
I've been saying 80% of the adult population. I'm more than happy to support what that unified approach is, but I think we need to be ambitious and we also need timelines to give to the community.
Well, Andrea, there was a rush of under 40s getting the jab this week as well. We've seen it all over social media. Everyone's really getting the message out there.
Yeah, Julie, in fact, almost 7,000 Australians under the age of 40 have rushed to go and get the AstraZeneca jab since the Prime Minister made that announcement that they would now be able to go and get that should they do a consultation with their GP. So that's in those days from Tuesday to Friday. The ATAGI advice, of course, and that the AMA is still endorsing, is that you should only be doing that as really a last resort if you have no other options and you should be waiting for the Pfizer jab to come along. But in terms of those young Australians who are still weighing up their options, it's still unclear when exactly they'll have Pfizer available to them.
I commend the young people who are clearly on board with the science and wanting to get their vaccination. But in terms of the risk benefits that are going on at the moment, and depending on the community levels of virus and so forth, and also the fact that we're onboarding Pfizer and will do so in greater and greater numbers, people sort of really just want to know when are they going to get vaccinated.
We'll make those decisions working with the health authorities in terms of when to open up in that regard. Not only do we have more doses coming into the country,
just to be clear, there is no date for them at the moment?
There's not a fixed date that I can give you now.
Now, Federal Labor, who of course have been lashing the federal government for many months now about this vaccination rollout, they've used this as an opportunity to call for more clarity and transparency as to when it comes to when those under 40s might be able to go get the Pfizer jab.
Simon Birmingham couldn't say when Australians under the age of 40 will have access to Pfizer. That's what happens when you think it's not a race, when you think that you can just be complacent and sit back and boast about how well you're going, about how you're at the front of the queue. Well, it is a race and we're seeing the consequences of it.
Now, the federal government recently released some form of vaccination targets in the forms of how many supplies will be heading out to the states, but it didn't take into account what phase of the rollout would go, so what age groups or who would actually be eligible for what. And under that, AstraZeneca will be phased out from October as Pfizer starts to carry that load. Julie?
All right, Andrea, thank you for that update.